Hello, friends, and welcome back to your own channel. Today, we are going to start learning about Python. This will be a video series in which I will cover Python for data science. At the end of this entire video series, you will be able to start using Python and start your journey to more advanced data science subjects. When I started my journey to data science, I was a non-techie and I did not understood anything about programming language or data science. But if I can learn it, you too can. Hence, I made this course for non-techies, people who don't know anything about programming language or data science. So rest assured about the content. You will be easily able to grab everything you need. But I recommend you to start download Python and work alongside with me during the video, as this will give you a lot of confidence. If you're liking my content which I post, go and hit that like button and also subscribe my channel. Without any further ado, let's begin. And I'm going to cover today about introduction to Python, and then we are going to download and install Anaconda prompt, and we also going to install Jupyter Notebook from there, and I'll give you kind of a brief introduction to Jupyter Notebook. This is the notebook where we are going to write all our codes, and we'll also write few lines of our codes to begin with. And at the end of the session, you will be comfortable to write few lines of codes in Jupyter Notebook. Also, we'll carry out certain basic mathematical and statistical operations to start our journey. As you might have heard name Python, and Python as a programming language is being widely used by a huge user community. It's free and open source. When I say free, it's free to download and to use. There is no subscription charges to it. Open source, that means any modification you do to Python libraries, other users can also use it. It's also cross platform compatible, meaning that it can run on Windows, Mac, Unix, Linux, and host of other operating languages. It's also having a large standard library. You name a task and Python is having library to accomplish that task. For example, if you want to do data manipulation, there are libraries in Python which data visualization. You'll find libraries in there. You name a task and Python is having all the libraries available. Also, Python is object-oriented programming language, and this is a brief introduction about Python. Now, let's begin downloading the Anaconda.
Okay, so for that, go to Google and search for Anaconda. As you do that, click on the link for anaconda.com and it will open up this page wherein you can have the download link for Windows. I'm having Windows, so I'll download for Windows version. But in case if you are having different operating system like Linux or Mac, you can get the download link from the icon which is shown on the web page. Right now I am downloading for Windows, and as I click on that, I'll get my download file. And since the file is large, it will take some time to download it. Since now our file is downloaded, I'll click on the file and our installation will begin after that. As we see that some dialog box is open, click on the next button to start installation. Click on I agree. Click on next in case if you want to install only for yourself. In case if you want to install for all users, select and provide all user option. Click next. Click next. This is a default drive. Click install. And it takes some time to get this installed. As we know that our the step is completed, let's go to the next step. Hit on the next button and click on the next and click on the finish. So now our Anaconda setup has installed the Anaconda, right? Let's go to the start and click Anaconda, and that will take you to Anaconda Navigator, right? So you have Anaconda prompt as well, but we are going to use Anaconda Navigator for now. And let me give you brief summary about what Anaconda Navigator is all about. It's environment where you find different platforms on which you can write your codes. So Anaconda Navigator has opened up now, and there are so many applications which is available in which you can write your code. So you have Jupyter Labs, you have a Jupyter Notebook, you have a Spider, you have RStudio, and so many host of applications which is available to you. We are more interested and we are going to learn our data science journey using Jupyter Notebook that is user friendly and that is convenient to use. You can launch Jupyter Notebook straight away from here by clicking launch button. Alternatively, you can close the Anaconda Navigator for now, and you can go to your start button and type Jupyter Notebook. As you type Jupyter Notebook, it will show you this prompt, Jupyter Notebook Anaconda 3. You click on that and it will take you to Jupyter Notebook page. It will run some command like this, and Jupyter Notebook is hosted by any web browser. Right now, my default web browser is Google Chrome. So Jupyter Notebook gets opened up in Google Chrome. In case if you use any other browser, you can use it from there. This is where you can see all your directories and which file is being stored. What we are interested here is to create a new file. So you have an option called new here. In that drop down, you can create a new Python 3 notebook. You can also create a text file, folder, or terminal. You can also upload any other file which you want to. You can log out or quit. That option also available here. So let's create our first Jupyter Notebook file. For that, let's click on to the new button and let's create new Python 3 file. As we do that, a new separate file opens up, and this is the new Python 3 file. And let's first rename our file. So right now our file name is untitled. Let's just rename our file, and let me give a name called Python for non-techies. And let's just hit on the rename button. So now as you can see, our file name is Python for non-techies. And here we are going to write whatever codes we are going to do today. And as you can see, the last checkpoint, that means where the file is last saved. You can see it here. Let me explain you this Jupyter Notebook in more detail. As you can see, there are different menu options which is available here. You have a file menu in which you have different options. Like you can open a new notebook from here, which is Python 3 notebook. You can also open any other notebook which is available in your system. You can go and make a copy of your notebook. You can do a save as function. You can rename your notebook. You can save your notebook and make a checkpoint of it. Usage of checkpoint is that you can revert to any other checkpoint which you have saved so far. You can do the print preview. Also, one of the important options is to download this notebook in different format. So many options available here. Very famous options such as HTML, LaTeX, Markdown, or maybe Python or PDF. Now, for most cases, we are going to save our notebook in .ipynb format, but in some cases, you would also like to save your notebook in HTML format. And next menu is edit menu. In edit menu, you have options like cut cells and copy cells. Before we go to edit menu, please understand this rectangle box which you see on your screen. This is called a cell in a Jupyter Notebook. In cell, you are going to write your lines of code. So cell is very, very important element of this Jupyter Notebook. And in edit menu, you can cut cells, you can copy the cells, you can paste and delete cells, and you can split and merge cells. And there are a host of other options like moving cells up and down, and edit notebook metadata, cut cell attachments, and copy cell attachments. So those options are available with you in edit menu. The next menu is view menu. Within view, you can have options like toggle header, toggle toolbar, toggle line numbers, and within cell toolbar, you have a host of options available. As you go to insert menu, in insert menu, you can insert cell above to your existing cell, or you can insert cell below your existing cell. So these are the options available in insert menu. As you go to cell menu, within cell, you will write a lines of code, and lines of code, you need to execute it. And how do you execute line of code is through running the cells. And in cell options, you can run cells. You can run cells and create a new cells below, or select the new cells below as the option may be. You can run all your cells. You can run only your current cell and all the cells above by run all above, or you can run your existing cell and run all cells below by using run all below options. You have also different options like cell type, which we are going to see in some time. You can select your cell type to be a code cell type, a markdown cell type, or a raw NB convert cell type, right? You ignore if you don't know the terminology for now. We are eventually going to learn what this code or markdown cell means. As you go to your current output, you can toggle scrolling and all output options. So host of other options available in cell menu. Now, the next menu is kernel menu. Now, if some of you are from programming background, you have heard about compilers. So compilers are basically when you write lines of code, compilers will execute those codes. So kernel in Python is nothing but it acts as a compiler. When you run lines of code in the cell, and when you run your cell, basically kernel will execute those lines of code. So in case if a code is messy or it takes time to execute, you can interrupt your kernel or you can restart your kernel as the case may be. Restart and clear output, what it does, it will restart kernel and clear all the output of all the cells. And you have a restart and run all, you have reconnect kernel options, and you have shut down kernel options. Next menu is widget menu, and you have options available to save notebook widget or clear notebook widget option. And as you go to help menu, you find a lot of user documentation around Python, and it's different libraries available here, which you can use and go and learn it. Right? Let's go, and since we have now understood the menu, let's understood few of the icons which is in the toolbar available here. So as a save little floppy disk icon is to save and checkpoint your existing file. As we do that, our file gets saved very quickly. With plus option, you can add cells below your existing cell. You can cut cells by the scissor option here. You can copy selected cells. You can paste cells below. You can move your cells up and down. You can run your cells with this option as well. You can interrupt your kernel with little square box here. You can refresh or restart your kernel with this refresh option. And you can restart kernel and rerun the whole notebook with this option. And here is the option to define whether the cell is a code cell or a markdown or a heading or whatever the case may be. You can define from that. And we're going to learn about markdown today. But right now, by default, all cells will be code cells. Next to the type of cells, you find this little keyboard option. That's nothing but a keyboard shortcuts for a Jupyter Notebook. And you find host of different shortcuts which is available. You can search and find the required shortcut. So let's begin by writing our first few lines in Python as a code. Let's write our own name in our first Python notebook. So the command for this is print, and as I write print, color will change and it will be in green color. That's the command or the instruction which Python takes. It's always in green color. So I write print here and I'm going to write my name. So I'm saying that my name is Biren. And once I write it, I'm done with my code. Now let me execute my cell. And how do I execute my cell? I'm going to run command here and going to click on run. As I do that, As you can see, it has printed just my name is Biren. And as you can see, we have used inverted comma to give whatever we wanted to print within the print function. So you need to use this inverted comma to display the string here. So I've displayed my name is Biren here, right? Similarly, why don't you try and display your own name in your Jupyter Notebook? Now, let's try and do this thing. Let's try a paragraph. So I'm going to write more about myself here. So in inverted comma, I'm going to write, my name is Biren and I love eating and playing video games. I also love traveling to new places. And since I've written it, let me go to run command and let me execute this cell as well. As I do that, you can see a little number appearing here. That's my input sequence or execution sequence. You see in our first case, it was 1. In this case, it was 2. And this is what my print output which appears here, right? Great. Now, why don't you try and write something about yourself in your first Jupyter Notebook? Superb. Now, let's learn to comment in Python. So when you write long lines of code, sometimes you need to provide your reader or to yourself some kind of comments which are not lines of code but basically instructions. So how to write those kind of instruction in Python is with help of hash. As you put hash and post that whatever you write, Python will take it as a kind of a instruction and it will not consider it as a code. And if you execute such cells, it will not give you any kind of output because Python knows that these are kind of instructions or labels which you put there. So let me say this is an instruction to the reader of this notebook. And this is a code cell. So when I run the cell, there is no output and the cell get executed, but there is no output to this. So this acts as a kind of instruction or label. And when you use long lines of code and you wanted to give instruction of particular line of code or to explain that line of code, you can use this hash and whatever you write will appear in this color and you can provide the instruction to users or readers. Now, let's begin with our first few mathematical operations. So how do we write different mathematical operations? Let's say you want to do 2 plus 2 and this is what we wanted to do. So just write 2 plus 2 and go to the run and execute the run button. As you do that, you get output called 4 and that's correct, right? And you also get the output sequence 4. So that's your output, which is correct. Let's do 10 minus 2. And if you do that, your answer is 8 and which is correct. What if you type print 2 plus 2? What will happen in that case? You'll still get 4. But the only difference between 2 plus 2 here, in which you case get the output. Can you see this out 4? That's output, actual output you're getting here. When you do print, there is no output per se. It's just a print of what you intend to do here. And as you can see, since these are the numbers, I have not used inverted commas. I've just used plain numbers here to type. Let's move to the next step. And here I don't have any more cells. So let me click on this little plus icon here and add more cells here. Let me add few more cells to keep ourselves going with today's session. So let's try and do some multiplication. So let's say that I want to multiply 12 with 5. So I'll use this asterisk function or asterisk symbol. Asterisk symbol is nothing but it's a multiplication. So you are telling Python to multiply 12 with 5. And as you do that, click on run button and it will give you answer 60, which is correct, right? Let's go and do some division. So let's divide 90 by 5. So this is the sign of division. As you run the cell, it will give you answer 18.0, which is correct answer, right? Fantastic. You did couple of basic mathematical operations. Now, why don't you try some of this in your own Python notebook? Super. While we understood the basic mathematical operation, let's try and understand one more thing here, that in case if you want to put some kind of a label here, right? This is a mathematical operations, and now we are going to do some more advanced mathematical operations. So I want to put kind of a label in here, which is not a code, right? How do I do that? So one option is I can use hash and just write instruction, right? But that will be very small. I want to put an explicit big label here. So Python is having that capability. You can execute that. Only thing here is that instead of code cell here, so this cell right now by default, it's a code cell. So instead of code cell, I'll define this cell as a markdown cell. When I select markdown cell, I can write a markdown language, and I can define this label, the cell as a label. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type hash, and I say that advanced mathematical operations, right? So I'm saying that this cell is having this label, and I'm going to run this cell. So there is no input sequence, as you can see, because this cell is a markdown cell. It's not a code cell. So there is no execution sequence, but this will appear in this way. So this is more visually appealing, right? So this is kind of a label or kind of separator for the next few lines of code, right? In case if you want to decrease the font size, you can go and include more hash. So as I put more hash, my text size will decrease. I put 3 hash for now, and I run my cell. It will give me this output, advanced mathematical operations, in smaller font. Let's see few advanced mathematical operations. Let's say you want to do 2 raised to 5, right? So how do you do 2 raised to 5? So one of the options is you can multiply 2 5 times, just like this, right? And you can get your output 32, which is correct. But imagine you want to do 2 raised to 7. In that case, it is very cumbersome to type 7 times 2 and 7 times 6 times asterisk. And that's very difficult. So there is an option in Python available where you can just write 2 and type 2 asterisks. 2 asterisks meaning you can define power in which you want to multiply 2. So I'm saying I want 2 raised to 7. So 2 and 2 asterisks, that means you're defining power, and that will give you 2 raised to 7. That's 128, and that's correct. Let's say I want to do 3 raised to 5. So I'll do 3 2 asterisks, and I'll type 5. I'll run this code. That is 243, which is again correct, right? Let's try and find out maybe cube root, or let's say square root. Let's say I want to find out square root of 16. So I'll type 16, I'll put 2 asterisks, and as I know square root is nothing but 1 by 2. So I'll just type 1 by 2 here. And once I execute this code, it will give me 4, which is correct answer. If I wanted to find out cube root, it's simple. Let me find out cube root of 125. I'll put 2 asterisk, and I know cube root is nothing but 1 by 3. So I type 1 by 3, and as I run code, it will give me correct answer, which is 5, right? And this way you can give any power and execute any of the mathematical operations. Now let's go and store some values and define some variables and do mathematical operation on this variable. So here I have introduced new term called variable. Variable is nothing but it's kind of a container whose value can change, and that's why its name is variable, right? So let me define my variable a. A is nothing but assume it to be a kind of a empty box in which you can store different things. Right now I'm storing value of 20 in A, and I run my cell. So there is no output. right now because I'm storing value 20 in my A container. So in my next cell, if I type A and if I run the cell, it will give me value 20 because that's the value I've stored here, and that will give me output as well. Let me define a new variable called B here, and I'm storing value 5 here, right? So B is equal to 5, and let me run the cell. So right now 5 value is stored in B. If I go and type B and execute my cell here, it will give me value 5. Now, if I wanted to do something like this, A plus B. So A plus B is nothing but right now the value of A is 20 and value of B is 5. So 20 plus 5, it should give me 25 as an answer, right? So I'm doing A plus B, and if I run my cell here, it will give me value 25, which is correct. If I do A minus B, it will give me value of 15, which is again correct, right? And if you want to print A plus B, it will again give you the same value. So when you run this print A plus B, it will give you 25, but there's no output because you are just printing it, right? If you do print A raised to B, right? And if you execute your cell, it will give you value, some large number, that is nothing but 20 raised to 5, and that is this number, right? And this way you can store value in variable, or you can execute different mathematical operations. Congratulations, you have successfully completed writing few lines of code in Python, right? You learned about how to print your name, how to write paragraph, how to execute different basic mathematical operations in Python, and how to run different cells, how to write labels in Python, and how to do advanced mathematical operations, and how to store value in variable, and how to use variable to do the mathematical operations. So that's all for today, and in next session we are going to learn more about variables and looping statements, and this will be act as your base to create or accomplish different data science tasks. Please like, share, and subscribe my channel. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.